Hello my friends, welcome to Reddit Rabbit. Before we start, catch the rabbit at the bottom right corner, smash that subscribe button and leave a comment. r/AskReddit, what is a psychological trick you know to really frick with someone? My boss handles stress terribly, so in one-on-ones, he tends to snap and spend the hour complaining about people. Sometimes people end up getting chewed out or yelled at in a meeting that's supposed to be about their development. When I first began in my department, he noticed me putting on perfume and said his wife wears the same one. It's not anything fancy, just one that's widely known. Every time I go into my one-on-one with him, I apply the perfume right before. He generally speaks very softly to me and doesn't snap at me like he does with others, and I'm pretty sure it's because he smells me and thinks of his wife. Fricked up that it takes that to get a manager to treat you humanely, but it works. Offer somebody gum, but don't take a piece for yourself. Look at the pack, flip it over, and say okay as you put it back into your pocket. Came to this thread as I am the beloved nuisance friend. This is one of the ones I'm gonna do, and I don't even chew gum. Immediately after they look at the time, ask them if they know what time it is. Chances are, they will have to look at the time again. Hell, I do this to myself all the time. It's not really psychological, but let's say someone is 25 or 30 feet behind me while we're both walking down a hallway. There's a 90-degree corner coming up. I round the corner then run really quietly so I'm really far ahead of the person behind me. Then I walk my normal speed again. When they round the corner, they are surprised to see how far away I am now compared to how normal I was walking. Point out something that someone does all the time. One of my co-workers would leave the office at the end of the day and forget his headphones. So he'd leave the office and have to run in a game to grab them. I told him I notice he always forgot his headphones, and how he's self-conscious about it and never forgets them anymore. That actually seems more helpful and frickful. Hey Brad, I notice how you never get your work done every day. Nice try, Brenda. Frickful. Stare at their forehead while they are talking. It really freaks people out. Jim was onto something. Generally anywhere that isn't their eyes, but forehead works best. My friends always stare at my boobs when we're talking and it drives me insane. Many years ago, I was accused of staring at a girl's boobs while my folks were talking to her parents about the house they were selling. I wasn't. I was staring at the odd picture of Sammy Hagar in a straitjacket as part of Van Halen on her shirt. He looked really demented and disturbing to me. My eyes have always been fricked up, where one of them sits higher than the other. In order to make it as discreet as possible, it's best to look people in the eye with my higher up eye. The downside to this is that the lower eye is constantly on their chest. Not a big deal most of the time. I'm usually only paying attention to the upper eye and basically filtering out the lower one. But if it's a woman in a low-cut shirt that I have to interact with, I have to continue on like my brain isn't getting increasingly uncomfortable with one eye staring into their cleavage. I know what you mean. I'm a pretty tall guy and I always feel awkward, because I have to point my head down to talk to most girls and I'm always mildly worried they'll think I'm staring at their chest. As a pretty short girl, I can normally tell where a person is looking when people look down at me, so don't worry. Just make sure you look at their eyes, because they will most likely be looking at yours if you're having a conversation. Silence. It's a very effective interview technique, because as humans we are conditioned to break silences in conversations. I will be dead silent if I am not a host of the conversation. Respectfully waiting for someone to be ready to start will eventually, quickly, morph into a freak your mind games. If you show that kind of bullet in an interview, there's no boundaries on the bullet you'll dictate on site. I had a conversation with my former boss, who was kind of a psychopath. He started by saying he needed to ask me a question. Then he made a bunch of statements and then just stopped and was silent. I assumed his question was implied by the statement, so I started to respond to the statements. He cut me off and chastised me for interrupting when he hadn't asked the question yet. Then he did the same thing. Several statements, then silence, then I start to talk and get yelled at. He did this 3 times before finally asking a question. I thought he was absolutely nuts. Later I learned this is a technique people use to establish dominance. Whenever someone does this to me, I ask them if their sentence was going somewhere or if that was it. My room, mate talks like, this and I freaking, hate it. He takes 15 minutes to tell me something as simple as the toaster is broken. Then he gets upset with me for not listening to him. So I started doing the same thing back to him about a month ago, and within the last month he has left bleach in the washer accidentally 2 times, ruining my loads. He has also left my nice pot on the stove all night till it was burned straight through. Of course it was an accident. I'm glad I stumbled upon this post, as now I can see the reason is weird power trip. See? When you are talking to someone, if you interrupt them and say walk with me in a busy tone and start walking away, they will walk with you and continue the conversation without hesitation. You can lead them wherever you want, really. There was this young man who was harassing one of my employees, but I didn't know about it until I fired him. He came in one day after being fired and was trying to talk to her while she was checking people out. I walked over and said, hey, let me show you something. He walked away with me. I said it's over here, and we walked to the door. I said almost here, and we walked out the door. I then told him never to come back in the store again. I was surprised he just willingly walked with me all the way out. When you get into an elevator with other people, don't turn around to face the doors. It's a common practice in my country and people just stand there being uncomfortable. I hate it. Is your country hell? I forget the exact study, but basically in an office setting you can tell anyone anything, and as long as it's on an official memo, anywhere between 60–80% will comply. I think in the study they had it as take this memo to an isolated room, and most people just did it. Wild stuff. There has been a rise in employees receiving emails from their boss telling them to go buy gift cards for Christmas presents or whatever. Then to email the codes to the boss so they can hand them out for Christmas. Nigerian princes must be reading the same studies as you. I got a few emails like this at my old job. Jokes on the scammers though. I knew it was a scammer immediately because I never received a single email from my boss the entire time I worked there. Take this memo to an isolated room. Maybe there is something there. If I want a little break, isolated room can't be far away. Where I work isn't a very big building. If it's somewhere outside of the building, I'll just pitch the memo and call out my desk neighbor for upping his prank game. It's as simple as this, and most people are happy to help with a small, direct request. If you want to really mess with someone, go up to them and ask them, hey, do you ever get that creepy deja vu feeling? Then like a week later wear the same thing and ask them the same question. I've done this to so many people and their reactions are hilarious. I think I might start pranking my students with this. MWA haha. I like this, except to be less blatant you should try getting someone else help coordinate a fake conversation instead. Example 1. Get a script 2. You both wear same outfit 3. Read the convo 6 months later. I worked with a friend who kept a 12-pack of Mountain Dew under his desk. For a while I'd sneak extra cans back into the box. Not a lot, and just enough that he was sure he drank more than the box would hold. He knows. Free drinks. Like the very old joke. A young boy enters a barber shop and the barber whispers to his customer, "This is the dumbest kid in the world. Watch while I prove it to you." The barber puts a dollar bill in one hand and 2 quarters in the other, then calls the boy over and asks, "Which do you want, son?" The boy takes the quarters and leaves. "What did I tell you?" said the barber. That kid never learns. Later, when the customer leaves, he sees the same young boy coming out of the ice cream store. "Hey, son. May I ask you a question? Why did you take the quarters instead of the dollar bill?" The boy licked his cone and replied, "Because the day I take the dollar, the game's over." Hand them trash in a conversation. Usually, if you reach out with something, the other person will take it, and if they're busy talking to you, they won't pay attention to what you're handing them. I do it sometimes for fun, and the expression I get when they finally look down and realize I just handed them my trash to take care of is great. Yes, I've had this done to me. It fully works effortlessly, but I think that's kinda the point. You just have to confidently pass them the trash like it's theirs. And then it is. Tell your family you're going to get cigarettes and then never come back. Psychologically frickin' good. Good one, dad. Wave to random people in public, and when they wave back look at them confused and point behind them. They'll be crying about the awkwardness until they start their new life in another country. Who the frick does this, LMAO? Psychopaths. And the Oscar for Sociopath of the Year goes to